Hello everyone, welcome. In this video, we will discuss Jacobean Age, and the timeline of this Jacobean Age is from 1603 to 1625 AD. And the Jacobean Age succeeds the Elizabethan Age and it precedes the Caroline Age. And now we will discuss why this age is called Jacobean Age. So, what happens here? If you see the name James in Latin, you will find that in Latin it is known as Jacob. So James is known as Jacob, and that is the reason, that is why the name of the age is called Jacobean age, because in Latin word James is Jacob. So this age is called Jacobean age. अब ये तो बात हो गई कि इस एज को जैकोबियन एज क्यों कहा जाता है. अब हम डिस्कस करेंगे किंग जेम्स फर्स्ट आया कहाँ से, क्योंकि क्वीन एलिजाबेथ नेवर मैरिड एंड शी डिडंट हैव एनी चिल्ड्रन. तो ये आया कहाँ से? तो दिस किंग जेम्स फर्स्ट वाज किंग ऑफ स्कॉटलैंड, and in Scotland he was known as the King James VI, and he ruled Scotland from 1567 to 1625 AD. So इसका जो कनेक्शन था वो उसका कनेक्शन जो था स्कॉटलैंड से था, लेकिन जो उसकी जो वो मैटरलैंड साइड से अपनी माँ की तरफ से इंग्लैंड को बिलोंग करता था. तो वो ही वॉज अ डिस्टेंट रिलेटिव ऑफ क्वीन एलिजाबेथ फर्स्ट. So he was relative of King, so Queen Elizabeth first. So he was a real successor of that throne of England. तो जब एलिजाबेथ की डेथ हो गई तो there was a discussion going on in the parliament and in the other circle that who will become the next ruler, and they invited King James VI of Scotland to become King of England. And here the one name is very important, and the name of that name is Robert Cecil. Robert Cecil was a great man. He was secretary of the state of England, and he was an administrator, he was a politician, he was a privy councillor, and he helped a lot to bring King James first to throne of England. So he engineered King James I's succession to England, and he managed a major crisis of that succession. And he also organized the publication of King James Basticon's Dormon, which was the advice on the kingship. So he set all the stage for that. And here then King James VI came to throne of England, and earlier he ruled Scotland from 1567 to 1625. He became king when he was just 1 year old. He was born in 1566, and he became king when he was just 1 year old, and he ruled Scotland from 1567 to 1625 AD. Now, as he was ruling both England, Scotland, and Ireland, he was called the King of Great Britain. And he was the first Stuart King of England. Before that, there was a Tudor dynasty in England. And that King James I was son of Mary, Queen of Scott. So his mother was was Mary, Queen of Scott, and this Queen Elizabeth executed Queen Mary. So we will not go to this rivalry why she has executed that Queen of Mary, because there was some reason for that. This man is Robert Cecil, who helped King James I to come to the throne of England. Now, now that King James I was a strong advocate of royal absolutism, means he was advocate of divine rights theory of king, that whatever king is saying is right, and whatever king is saying is must be followed. That so he was his viewpoint of was like that. Now. Now he was a Protestant. He was a staunch Protestant, and before him, Queen Elizabeth was also a Protestant, and that King James I was a very learned man. He produced translation of Bible, Now, and that translation of Bible was called King James Bible, and it was the authorized version. It came in 1611. And before that, I must tell you some very interesting story about this Jacobean age. This is a very interesting age in this regard, and I am pretty sure you haven't heard this story. So what happened? Um, when we go to the 5th November, even today in England, if you go on November 5th, you will get that children make paper replica, they make paper dolls, and they make life size paper dolls of an enormous man, and then you will find that that is the paper replica of Guy Fawkes. It was a paper replica of Guy Fawkes. So they also have fireworks, and now this tradition seems very similar to the tradition which we follow in India. We celebrate Dashera, and so we hear what happens. We make life-size model of Ravan, replica of Ravan, and then we burn it with firecrackers in order to symbolize the victory of good over evil. So similar kind of activity, similar kind of practice is done in England in 5th November, on 5th November. And this here what happens, there was a conspiracy in England, where there was a group of English Catholics who were against King James first, because King James first was a staunch Protestant. So people made a plan to execute him. Here, what is the reason for this plan of execution of King James first? So, what happened? King Henry VIII was a king of England earlier, and when he divorced Catherine of Aragon, and he started Anglican Church in England, so Catholics considered that Queen Elizabeth illegitimate, and she was worthy of to be a Queen of England. Then in 1559 also Queen Elizabeth passed an Act of Uniformity, and which made attendance at the Protestant church, Anglican church service compulsory. Even if you are Catholic, you have to attend this Anglican church. So this those who rebelled were subjected to fine execution. So if anybody objected to this tradition of attending the Anglican church, they were fined, and they were also subjected to execution also. So this practice made Catholics very angry, and they became very angry, and the Catholics were forced to become Protestant by this act of Queen Elizabeth. So they retained their Catholics beliefs within. So in outwardly they just showed that they are following the Protestant belief, but in their mind and their heart they practiced Catholics belief within. And so when James first was Protestants too, and he upheld the belief of Queen Elizabeth, that James first upheld the belief of Protestantism. So these people became very very angry. So their gunpowder treason is hatched by this people, and this gunpowder treason is a failed plot. It was a failed plot to blow King James first of England and the Parliament of on November 5th, 1605. So this plot was organized by Robert Catesby in effort to end the and the persecution of Roman Catholics by the English government. So Roman Catholic were being persecuted, and they were in a very bad state in England during the reign of James first. So in order to get out of that situation, they made this plan, and Catholics decided to fill the gunpowder of the Westminster Palace with the barrels of gunpowder. So they filled the barrels, this in the basement they hide the gunpowder, and in this way this plan was made. So what happens here, I will tell about the whole plan. In here what happens, the the King James first was really smart, and so there was some anonymous letter came from that party, and who in that letter there was written that don't attend the parliament session on 5th November, and that parliamentarian who got this letter from those rebels, he showed this letter to King James first. And then the King James First was very smart, and he ordered that the king men to go to the palace, to the Westminster Palace, and to search the whole basement. They were hiding this gunpowder in the basement. So when the king men went to the basement, they could not only see the vault filled with the gunpowder. They also caught the person whose name was Guy Fawkes, and he was hiding with his followers in that basement. And he was carrying matchsticks, he was carrying torchlight in the basement to blow the whole parliament and to blow the whole system of England, the whole parliamentarian king and their men and administrators. So so king decided to execute this Guy Fawkes, and Guy Fawkes there was tortured for many days, and then he was executed. So finally, the King James first announced that on the November 5th is going to be celebrated every year with the bonfire, with the firework to symbolize the safety and security of the whole British nation and the whole British country. So that was the plot, and here so, after the gruesome execution of the conspirators, King James I organized bonfire as a celebration of the victory throughout England. Until this day, 5th November is celebrated in England as a bonfire night, or we can also call it Guy Fawkes Night. So, that was the story behind this conspiracy. Now we will move further in this age, and we will discuss something about the literature of this period. During this Jacobean period, literature was given a lot of importance, and because this James first was a very learned man, and it was literature was at its peak, and it is said that the dramatists and the poets often dealt with the issues which affected society. Shakespeare was still writing in the Elizabethan age, and he was writing in this age also. So Shakespeare's contribution to the literature is immense in this age also, and he wrote some of the famous tragedies during this Jacobean period. Some of the popular works included play like Macbeth, The Tempest, King Lear during this period. Sorry. So, King James first was a very means he gave patronage to this literary men, and it is believed that King James first believed in witchcraft, and he was apprehensive that witches are against him, and to please King James first, it is believed that Shakespeare wrote Macbeth, in which he used witchcraft and all those things. So Shakespeare has written his great work in this age, but during this age, Shakespeare was going through his dark phase, and he was writing great tragedies. Now, what are the characteristics of Jacobean literature? Shakespeare remained the most important figure in the field of Jacobean literature. However, after his death, Ben Jonson became eminent dramatist and best known produced by the Jacobean period, based on poet produced by Jacobean period. The role of Ben Jonson is also regarded as significant in literature, as he invented the subgenre that is masque. So his popular works include play like Volpone, Alchemist, Bartholomew Fair, and Epicon. Now, other eminent dramatists of this time were Francis Beaumont, John Fletcher. They were famous for writing popular comedies titled The Night of the Burning Pestle. Then the revenge tragedy was very popular in this age. And another aspect of Jacobean literature was made popular by the John Webster. This revenge tragedy, he was writer of revenge tragedy. Then there were writers like John Ford, Thomas Middleton, and Thomas Kidd who were writing uh, revenge tragedy. So here I will discuss that John Webster has written Duchess of Malfi and White Devil, like that. Now I will discuss something about the um, metaphysical poetry. It was a very popular in this age. Metaphysical poetry, it was a very popular form of writing in this age. And so let's look at the this poetry of this age. And the most amazing poetry was the metaphysical poetry, metaphysical poets, and their poetry. So you will find that they were very popular in Jacobean period. This metaphysical poetry was a different kind of poetry. And the poet were ranging from the John Donne, Andrew Marvell, George Herbert. They were great writers of metaphysical poetry. And they were these poets were endlessly working for uh, like for the uh, development of sonnets also in this age. But here in this age there was sonnet writing was in decline. Now, I will talk about metaphysics. A lot of students get confused about who coined the term metaphysics. So, Dryden, for the first time, John Dryden, first time coined the term metaphysics, whereas Samuel Johnson was looking at all these writers and all these poets, and he put them together. He put them in the certain group, and then he named these poets as a metaphysical poets. And so their work is very important. And now, so the Dryden has just coined the term metaphysics, whereas the Samuel Johnson put them all together in a group and named them the metaphysical poets. So this is the difference between this. Now, this metaphysical poets believed in certain kind of philosophy, certain kind of theory, and they were writing on the themes of love, romance, platonic love, and they believed in the philosophy of carpe diem. Carpe diem means seize the day. जी भर के जियो, seize the day. And carpe diem is a philosophy which means the seize the day. And it is the particular philosophy which means to make use of the best of that day, particular day. And this was what metaphysical poets were doing. And they were regarded they were regards to the theme. They also contributed a lot in the in the field of literary terms, because they were using puns, they were using conceits, paradoxes. So a conceit was a literary device. Literary conceits was something which metaphysical poets used in abundance. And there was a far-fetched conceit in their metaphysical poetry. Now we will talk about something about the essays in Jacobean age. And so now we will come to the essays of Jacobean age. And one very famous name of in this regard was Francis Bacon. So Francis Bacon was the person who belonged to both ages. He belonged to Elizabethan age also, and he belonged to Jacobean age also. So he's regarded as the father of modern essays, and he has done some great work in the field of essay writing, and he is very great figure in this regard. So he has written a great work called Advancement of Learning, and it is a very important work, and he dedicated this work to King James First. So this is dedicated to King James First, Advancement of Learning. And the next his important work is essays. Those essays is a collection of 58 essays which he has written. And and in this essays he has written on the various themes, and his range is very very wide. हर तरह के थीम में उन्होंने लिखा है। उनका जो लिखने का जो एरिया है बहुत ही ज़्यादा वास्ट है। फ्रांसिस बेकन का ग्रेट स्कॉलर थे। उनके थीम को देख के इतना ज़्यादा मतलब थीम है उनके में कि उनका रेंज बहुत ज़्यादा था थे उनका, और अलग अलग टॉपिक्स पे लिखते थे, अलग अलग इसमें लिखते थे। और उन्हें लैटिन लैंग्वेज ज़्यादा पसंद था। ही प्रिफर्ड लैटिन ओवर इंग्लिश, and he considered that Latin is more important. And his diversity is amazing, and he writes about every subjects. Now we will talk about essays, some essays of his essays on familiar subjects. He's written on learning, studies, vain glory, great place, and many essays has been written on this various themes. Now he has written in Astoria Magna, what he has written in Astoria Magna. Now, one thing is important. He has written this essays, and this has come in the various publication. First publication was in 1597, and second edition came into 1612, and third edition in 1625. Now we will discuss about the one more work, important work of Francis Bacon, which is in Astoria Magna. So this work is very important, and here what happens here. Now this work, we can see that here it is not in English, it is in written in Latin. And this work is very important because here what he does, it is a story of Magna, and this particular work is divided into 6 books. So we can divide this, he has divided his books in 6 books, and his intention of the Franz Bacon was to divide the 6 books. It was similar to the invention of God. As you know that God tried to create universe in 6 days, and on the seventh day he wanted to take rest. So that is why in this book he has Francis Bacon has divided this book into similar 6 books in the imitation of God. So where he divided this book into story of Magna into 6 parts, just to imitate the way God created the entire universe. Now we will discuss about important person who was Walter Raleigh. Walter Raleigh was explorer. Sir Walter Raleigh was one of the most famous explorer of Queen Elizabeth I's reign, and his courage and good looks made him favorite of Queen Elizabeth I, and she rewarded him handsomely. Raleigh was also a scholar and poet. So he has written some important essays, some important work, and he was favorite of Queen Elizabeth. And his famous work is El Dorado. In El Dorado, here El Dorado, El Dorado symbolizes and stands for some mythical place, some mystical place and mythical place which has immense wealth, unlimited wealth. And Sir Walter Raleigh was a sea dog. He was a sea explorer, and he used to go to distant lands to find out new lands. And when they're in these lands, and where England, he was going there, and he was helping in the colonization of England. And he was favorite of Queen Elizabeth, but he was not a favorite of King James First. So now one story I am going to tell you that this is very interesting. So once when there was a Sir Walter Raleigh went to some exploration journey, and when he came from that mission, King James First imprisoned Sir Walter Raleigh, and King James First he imprisoned him and he killed him in Tower of London. And after beheading him, he presented his skull to his wife. And his wife of Sir Walter Raleigh, kept the skull with herself till the time she lived. So this is an interesting story. This story is not related to your exam, but it is an interesting fact. It makes your reading interesting. Now, Now this we will move on and look forward to the other dramatists of this age. This age is fabulous, known for the fabulous works of dramatists and Jacobean drama. Here you can Elizabethan age, there were dramas related to aristocracy and the prince and the queen and all that, just like we have Hamlet and the Othello. But when we come to the Jacobean age, we can say that these dramas are realistic, having the realistic themes. They were talking about the problems of the society and the problems which the society was facing, like adultery, corruption, lust, anger, greed. So this society, the Jacobean society, was suffering from all these problems. So in theme also, in theme of drama, this problem was coming into that theme. And now we will discuss something about the revenge tragedy, which is very important form of the in this tragedy in this age. Here the important name is Thomas Middleton. Thomas Middleton was a great revenge tragedy writer, and you have already I have already discussed the name of John Webster, who has written Duchess of Malfi and White Devil. So this form was very popular during this age. And in this age there was city comedies was being written. City comedies were basically about the days to day life of people. And there was something called mosque was very popular during this age. And the creator of the first mosque was Inigo Jones. Inigo Jones first written this mask. Now, this mask were basically plays that were staged specifically for a aristocratic people, for the rich people, for the people who were who were part of the royal court. And this mask was presented in front of king and this aristocratic people. So this mask was very lavish, very aristocratic and costly in a way. And they have used the props. They were using rich costume, rich decoration in this mask. And who was the founder of this mask? Inigo Jones. His name is very important in this regard, and this has been asked in many times in exams. So Inigo Jones was somebody who founded mask. And apart from Inigo Jones, Ben Jonson also written many masks, and other writers were also writing masks. So this was the Jacobean age, and I hope this video will be helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching my video. Thank you so much.